Wow, how cool is this? We are hearing from people all across the country. We've heard from people as far away as Michigan, Ohio, Cincinnati area, Greenville area. We know that there are people all over Pennsylvania who are joining in. And even though it's not the same thing as face-to-face, we are seeing the real value in this. I know that people in Arizona and California are going to tune in later, maybe a little early for them right now. And it's neat to see the way that we encourage you all to keep sharing those messages in the live chat on the side. Josh, you were playing, so you didn't see this, but we had a Josh is the Brethren Billy Joel comment coming through and some affirmation for that. We actually have a worship service where we did that. You could dig back through our old worships and find that. So we're seeing some of the blessings that come from this unusual circumstance, a situation where we may not feel like it's ideal, but we're seeing some of the upside. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about giving thanks in all circumstances. And so that's what we want to be about today. At the same time, we do want to keep noting the gravity of these times. We know that COVID-19 is something that has certainly taken a toll on many parts of the world. We're seeing just how globally connected we are in so many ways. And so we want to continue to remember those who are affected in real life ways, including illness and death. And we continue to hold those people very close in our hearts and in our communities as well. And we want to keep reaching out in the ways that are safe, the ways that we can help in our communities, similar to the ways that Pastor Pam mentioned earlier. So we keep doing that, and we encourage you to keep doing that on this journey. We don't want to give in to fear and anxiety, but we do want to acknowledge it, and we do want to acknowledge what we can do in the face of that fear and anxiety. So we'll leave that there for now, and we'll continue to get into our theme of the day, which is gratitude. Now, we actually had a moment as pastoral staff when we wondered if we should continue with our series on spiritual practices, this idea of, hello, God, are you there? Recognizing that sometimes it's hard, or it feels hard, to connect with God. And so we really wanted to provide some tools to help all of us create a better connection with God. Sometimes that means connecting more closely with our friends and neighbors, and that leads to God, and sometimes that's going straight to God. And so today we want to talk about gratitude. But to give you an idea of where we've been, in week 1 of this series we talked about how those moments in life can happen that are just devastating. Those moments that almost wreck us. And it's how sometimes we kind of choke that down. We think, well, who am I to complain? Or it's not so bad. Or maybe even we just feel abandoned by God in these really dark moments. We went back to the Bible and we saw that lament is really a part of who we are as people of God. We've done that through the ages. It's part of being honest with God. It is literally establishing connection with God even in those times when we feel like God is not near. We reach out, we call out to God, and we say, why, God? And we, even in that acknowledgement, are making a faith proclamation that God is God and God will always be there. And then last week, Pastor Pam shared with us about the art of slowing down, how our lives are so frantic and busied that often we just simply aren't connecting with God because we're not making time for God. And so she shared with us some ideas for how to do that, one of which was just sitting and breathing, especially when we connect with God's creation in nature. And so we've done those two things. We've talked about lament as honest connection with God. We've talked about slowing down so that we can really soak in God's presence. And today we move to gratitude. Now, it's interesting that when we talk about gratitude, we could take that a couple of ways. One of the ways we could take that is very earnestly, very seriously. I think Pastor Jason did a really nice job of that in the time with children today, recognizing that gratitude is something very real, and it's important. Now, at the same time, if you don't know us here at E-Town Church of the Brethren, one of the things that we also recognize about who we are is that God has made us to be people who can have some fun sometimes too. And so, as I was thinking about gratitude, I started to think about ways in which it's captured in the Bible. And those ways are innumerable. If you look up gratitude, if you do a search on gratitude in Bible, you can find dozens and dozens of scriptures. And then I also went to my Google search and I started to look up gratitude in general. And what you see there is that social scientists and psychologists and even medical, physical health people tell us how good it is for us in so many ways to practice gratitude. And it almost started to sound like an infomercial to me, how good...
All right. Here we are. How are you, sir? Let me get this ready here. I got my gratitude.
Wait.
We're selling it.
You're that guy, Niles Thankerbatch, aren't you?
It's the name my mother gave me, but it's all right.
Oh, all right.
Here we go. Gratitude in a bottle. Oh, don't touch it. You're going to pay for it.
Oh,
all right,
really?
All right. So, here we go. First things first, I bet you, sir, you look like someone who practices a little bit of gratitude, right?
I could do better.
Oh, can't we all, right? And it's something we can be thankful for. See what I did there?
I see what you did
All right,
there.
so here we go. So right here, I got a nice bottle of gratitude.
I didn't know it was blue.
Well, it comes in all certain colors.
Okay,
Whatever makes you
okay.
happy, whatever makes you think, if I like blue, I can be thankful for it. If I got red, I can be like, oh, I love red. It makes me happy, it makes me thankful. So, all right, if you look here on the back, it got a squint a little bit. It's all small. Here we go. One of the things about gratitude is that it opens the door to more relationships. Did you know that?
I had a hunch, but that's true.
Yeah, it absolutely is true. And you can improve your physical health, boost your psychological health, reduce aggression. Do you feel calmer already?
Already.
I mean, just look, I came
Already.
in with all sorts of excitement. Look at my hand.
Wow.
Barely moving. You know why? Gratitude. Right? You wouldn't have thought that. But look, like, see, empathy for other people, help you sleep better.
I have a lot of empathy for the people at home right now.
Oh, I can imagine. I bet they're really thankful, though. Sitting at home,
indeed.
nice and comfy, they to come here and listen to you right in front of everyone here.
The real Niles Thankerbatch is here.
I know. Sometimes you're here, sometimes you're not, but
right,
you gotta be
all right.
thankful when you're here. All right, so improve self-esteem. You don't look like you need to do that at all. Increase mental strength. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I appreciate that.
But
Always.
Be
Yes.
thankful for it, no
Yes,
matter what,
yes, absolutely,
Absolutely. So,
absolutely.
how much do you think you pay for a nice bottle of gratitude?
Oh yeah,
like this?
I'm not putting my hand on my face.
Yeah, don't
Just
do
close
that.
Too.
$1,000.
I would easily pay $1,000 for all those things.
Yeah, look at that.
All those things.
Yeah, all those things you'll like.
Easily $1,000.
Better, much better.
I would take out a loan if I needed
All right,
to get all that
500.
stuff.
500. You pay 500, right?
Well, yeah, if I pay 1,000, I pay 500.
So how would you feel if you only had to pay 200 quid?
200 quid.
It's a little bit more than 200.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's lower.
Okay. Well, sure.
Yeah. Oh, what about 4 payments of $19.95?
Well, I think it could appear on our screen right here.
Oh,
wow.
What do you think?
4 payments.
Only 4.
$19.95. Let me do some. Wow.
Not bad, right?
That
What if I told
is
you?
a deal. Wait.
What if I told you you could have all this gratitude for free?
I would say no way. I would say that's too good to be true.
I think you know a little better than that, because I suspect that you probably have a couple good ideas in that noggin of yours about how you might actually be able to show some gratitude. Is that true?
Perhaps.
Well, I think you should dig in deep in yourself,
Okay.
think about all those different ways, and maybe share it with people here. Right?
I'll do it.
All right, so
We're
what
on.
do you think? Gratitude? Would you like it? Would you like this?
I would love it. Can I have this bottle?
I mean, you can have it. It's really just, what is it? It's liquid starch. It's just, this is really just, it's a prop.
It's not.
can't drink
That's
wait.
not actually gratitude.
That's
in
quite daft of you, Greg. If you thought you could just drink gratitude, I wouldn't drink this.
there. I thought it was more like a.
No,
hand lotion
No,
kind
but
of
hey,
deal.
you know
No.
what? We can all be thankful. I was thankful to be here with you today.
I'm so thankful.
Right?
Appreciate
all right,
it.
Niles,
Air high
your
five.
friendly gratitude salesman. You take care. Thank
Wow.
you. See what I did there? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm grateful
all right.
for you.
Cheerio.
Whew. All right. That's right, folks. For the low, low price of free, you can be grateful. Everybody can be grateful. Now, while it may be free, it does take a little bit of effort on our part. Like all spiritual practices, Gratitude must be exercised. It needs to be developed. It's like a muscle. You know, if you lift weights, your muscles get more tone, they get bigger. Gratitude is the same way. If you exercise it, you will grow stronger. If you don't, you will grow weaker. And you know, that actually brings us to our scripture for today from 1 Thessalonians. It's in chapter 5, 16, 17, and 18. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Here's the deal. That kind of sounds like a no-brainer for people who are probably tuning in right now, people like you and me, people who are trying to follow Jesus. Yeah. Rejoice always. Find joy. Pray continually. Duh. Give thanks in all circumstances. But here's the deal. There was a lot more at stake for the people in Thessalonica. Their church, it was a startup. It was a fledgling operation. Believers were new to the faith. They were trying to learn it from Paul as he came and went, either in person or via letter, like these words from the scripture. And so I can imagine they were often sitting there together and sort of scratching their collective heads, wondering what in the world this Jesus thing was all about. And not only just the confusion of trying to figure it out on their own, but they also had this. They had the open and outright hostility from neighbors, from their community. People who were persecuting them because of their faith. And so, yeah, praying without ceasing, that certainly felt like the order of the day, I'm sure. But come on. Rejoice always? Give thanks in all circumstances? Even when perplexed and under attack? Well, yeah. Paul knew the situation. Paul himself had been under such situations and in such situations, under such scrutiny. Give thanks in all circumstances. I'll never forget an experience that I had. I was in South Sudan. Now, this was several years ago, and it was when the south of the country was still in a hot civil war with the north. And so anywhere we went, the first thing they would say is, there's your foxhole over there. If you hear the airplanes, you better run and run quickly. Because there was a bombing campaign going on. And so as you can imagine, not only just the fear and anxiety that people held, but people couldn't make a living. They couldn't produce what they needed to produce. And so the poverty was extreme. We were there with a Church of the Brethren delegation, and we were going from town to town, village to village, hearing people's needs with the hope that somehow we could come back and we could both lobby our own government for relief as well as serve ourselves and find relief that we could send over. And so as we did this, we saw a lot of heartbreaking situations. But there is one situation that is indelibly imprinted in my mind. We were traveling through this small village, and we came across a man who was walking with a wheelbarrow. And he was wearing, I think it's fair to say that what he was wearing was rags. That's not an exaggeration. His shirt was barely a shirt, didn't even cover his midriff. It was tattered and torn and ripped, dingy. Same for his shorts, no shoes. And our guide who was with us said, that is everything that this man owns. And here's what he does. He goes from home to home, from marketplace to marketplace, and he offers his services with the wheelbarrow. And so if people needed some vegetables, let's say, moved from point A to point B, from their field into the market, or maybe somebody was really sick at home, he would literally place the person in his wheelbarrow and he would take them to the doctor. That was it. That was his existence. And in return, he might get a penny or two. maybe a little bit of food to help keep him going. Well, as our guide was explaining this, one of the men in our car yelled, "Stop!" The car stopped. The man reached back into his bag. He went back into the back luggage area. He reached into his bag and he grabbed out a handful of clothes, as much as he could hold in his hands, from his own bag. And he went up to this man with the wheelbarrow and he said, "Here, I'd like for you to have this." And communication across the language barrier was simply in gestures. And I'll never forget what this man did then. He took those clothes and he held them up to the sky. I don't know what he was saying, but they were words of thanks. And onward we went. Give thanks in all circumstances. It's hard for me to identify with. I'm sure it's hard for you to identify with too. That desperate a situation. And at this point, it's really easy for me to get stuck in my own guilt and wonder if I would have the faith to be so thankful in a situation like that. It's easy for me to get stuck in my guilt wondering what my role is in a world that makes somebody live like that. And those are important questions. But this morning, I don't think that's the message. This morning, I think what I need to hear, what I need to reflect on, is what Wheelbarrow Man can teach me about what it is to give thanks, about what it is to be grateful. He's my teacher. He's my example. He's my guide. Though most of us don't face such life and death and on the edge of existence situations, we know pain. We know difficulty. We know grief. We know hopelessness. We know heartbreak. And we know what it is in those moments to lean on these friends that we have called apathy and cynicism. Those places that we go when we can't express any sense of thanks or gratitude. But this wise man with the wheelbarrow, he teaches me a different way. He teaches me gratitude. And he also teaches me that we are not our own little gods who can control everything in our lives. If COVID-19 and the coronavirus have taught us anything, I hope it is this: that as much as we try, we do not and we cannot control everything. We are not God. And though I don't believe that God sent COVID-19 or any other disease, I do believe that our response in all situations should be rooted in God. And yes, that includes giving thanks in all things. You know, I have this exercise that I do. We want to leave you every week during this series with something that you can take hold of, something that you can do. And I want to share an exercise with you. When I'm feeling, especially when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling frustrated, maybe even feeling angry, it's as simple as good old Niles Thankerbatch taught us. It's free. And all it requires is a little bit of time and all of our attention. What I do oftentimes is I sit down, I take a deep breath, and even with all of that stuff swirling in my head, even with all the stuff that I know that I need to do, even with all the circumstances that get me down and have me frustrated and have me worried, I take out a piece of paper and a pen and I write down those things for which I am grateful. Sometimes it's the very basic, that I'm alive, that I have a place to sit, that I have shelter. Other times it's things that are much more specific, a particular person or circumstance in my life. It's not that hard. In fact, it's really easy. So I want to leave you today with a sort of exercise as well. Now, we're going to put a few things on the screen here. And one is just noting that this is a handout that we were going to give, that we were going to put in all the bulletins before we needed to change our tact here. But the writer of Thessalonians knew the value of gratitude as a spiritual practice. The writer said, "Give thanks in all circumstances." And here, just like Niles told us, 2,000 years later, science tells us that practicing gratitude improves physical health, it reduces aggression, it makes us more empathetic, it boosts self-esteem and happiness, and it's easy. So one method is the method I just shared, but if you want to go a little deeper, if you want to have other places to dig in, here are a few things, a few ways that you can go about it. Now, you can always pause this, or you can always come back to it. This video will be live streamed, and then the minute it's done, it gets posted to our YouTube page. So you can always go back to our YouTube page if this goes too fast, or if you would like to write this down maybe, so that you can have it somewhere simple to refer to later. But one of the things that we can do is to name 3 things that we feel grateful for in our life. These can be things in the past that we know have been impactful for where we are today. They can be things now. They can be things that we might even think will exist in the future, kind of anticipatory gratitude. They can be big things. They can be small things. The key here is to try to be as specific as possible. Another thing you can do is identify 3 things you're grateful for that you usually take for granted. Here, health, clean air, shelter. Those things that you might not think about. Work on that for a little bit. Think about what you take for granted and how grateful you are that it is there, that it exists. Another way to do this is to identify 3 things. And by the way, you don't have to stop at 3, but try to get to at least 3. Identify 3 things that you appreciate about yourself. Now, I know many of us watching are good, humble brethren. We don't like to do this. This seems hard for us. But in this, we note that we are created by God with certain gifts and talents. It's okay. And lastly, identify 3 people who have made a positive impact in your life. And if you want extra credit, write them a note of thanks. Thank them. Be specific for how they helped you and for why you're grateful for who they are and what they've done for you. We had a small group here in our church parlor, and my wife and I are part of it, and we were talking about gratitude just a few weeks ago. And we were talking about how we have this hesitancy sometimes that when we talk about gratitude, sometimes we get this tinge that it feels like we're bragging a little bit. We're bragging if we say, am I bragging if I say that I'm grateful for my wonderful wife, recognizing that somebody may not have a wonderful spouse? But I think that you'll find that when you do this, it actually dissuades you from bragging because it's just between you and God. God doesn't tolerate bragging. God knows where you're at. And when you're practicing gratitude, you really are thanking God for that has come into your life. And I would also encourage you, again, to be grateful for who you are because we remember that God has made us who we are. God has put certain people in our lives that call out gifts in us. And sometimes we have gifts that are just under the surface that we need to explore a little bit more. And being grateful can be a way to unlock these gifts. And remember, the reason we unlock these gifts is because we then want to use them to serve others, to serve the world around us. So, I would encourage you, wherever you are, whatever is going on in your life, to take a breath. Even in these moments of fear and anxiety, even in these moments where we're not quite sure what is going to happen next, I think that in these times, in particular, you might find even more to be grateful for than you ever imagined. Give it a shot. I invite you to do that.